All right. I hope you can see me okay, hear me all right. Everything seems to be working fine. Fingers crossed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good Monday, not Monday, Tuesday, everyone. I've had a long weekend, so it feels like it's Monday. Let me make sure it works. Yep. Yeah, so I had a long weekend. It was the Diwali weekend, so a happy. I wish everyone a happy Diwali if you are celebrating. Hang on, something's wrong with this. Give me 1 second. Let me just figure this out. Okay. Yeah. So it's been a Diwali long weekend. Um, happy Diwali if you are celebrating. Um, if you're on the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're on. For all the regulars, you know the deal. Last week we pretty much spent some of the week talking about gold. For the next couple of days, we'll talk about Bitcoin until I get bored of it. Then we'll switch the topic again. So we won't do a topic per week. We might change it faster. We might do it for a couple of days. Might do it for a few more days. Um, then we'll switch the topic. Right. So we'll do that for 30 minutes every day. Talk about a major topic. Then after that, at 3 p.m. GMT plus 8, we'll switch over to um, the members live stream where we'll go through the um, daily currency analysis, look at major currency pairs and all that kind of stuff. Okay? So if you're not a member already, do remember to click join and join as a YouTube channel member. I think it's $9 a month or something, just something just to make sure that we get real members and good members in here. Um, if you're on the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know that you're on. I think I said that already. Remember to click the like and subscribe if you haven't. That thumbs up does help. Um, ideally, get more people onto the stream, and also the chat. Just keep chatting away. I think that helps as well. I'm still figuring it's just kind of. I like looking at markets. I like trading. I like sharing. So I'm just trying to figure this whole thing out as well. Those who know me very well knows what I mean. I'm making stuff up as I go. Hey Rajat, how are you doing? Happy Diwali. Hope you're well. Alrighty, alrighty. So, as people start coming in, let's talk about Bitcoin. Right? Let's talk about Bitcoin. Um, Pretty much, I'm looking at the chart here, and this was on the 7th of October. Right? Pretty much about a couple of weeks ago, Bitcoin was up, just touching the 126,000 level. Right? It was just touching 126,000. It was a new all-time high. Markets were super excited. Every crypto bull was super excited. The headlines were going crazy as Bitcoin breaks new records. All that kind of stuff. And fast forward, this was the 7th of October. Fast forward to today, the 21st of October. As I was planning this session, it was at 110. Right now, it's just under 108. Right? It's just under 108. And the lowest it got to on the 17th of October, on Friday last week, was below 104, right? Below 104,000. So it's dropped from 126, from about 126 down to 104. Um, that's about a what, 14, 15, 16% correction from the top, right? 14, 15, I can't remember, 15%. Yeah, 15% drop from the top. So now, obviously, with that whole question, well, with that whole drop, everyone's asking a question: Is this pullback? Is this correction? Is it normal? Right? Is it normal, or is this, a bit of a retrace, a deeper retrace than expected in a bull market, or is this a total reversal that's going to happen on in the crypto markets? And if you've been following what we've been talking about on gold, right? Gold has been or had been on that massive upward tear to the upside. Um, Bitcoin similar big move to the upside, but since then it's come off the top. So that's why the question, right? And hey Jimmy, how you doing? Hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. And if you look at it, right, if you just sit there and you stare at the charts, right, I was tempted to just jump straight into the technicals and look at the charts. But if you just sat there staring at the charts, you won't get the answer of whether this is a technical retracement, right, or correction back down, or is this a total reversal lower, or potentially a total reversal lower for Bitcoin, right? You got to know why. I'm more on about the fundamentals. I'm trying to gather the fundamentals of macros. So you need to know why it ran up all the way to that 126,000 level first. Then after that, figure out what has pretty much changed. And since then, right, since the 7th of October changed and made it pull right back. So once you understand that, then we can kind of get a better idea of what could happen next. So same thing like what we do at the start of every topic. We look at the macros, right? We look at the macros. We kind of um, find out what actually drove, or share with you what I think actually drove this up, what has caused the correction. Then after that, in the next session, we'll look into the charts. We look at technical levels. We look at the projection levels, where it could head towards, where it could bounce off from. Okay, so all good. If it makes sense, if it's something that you want to find out more about, put into the chat. Let me know. Jimmy is still moving, but yeah, if this is something that you want to find out more about, put into the chat. Let me know. I'm not going to change the topic, but at least I know what kind of topics you guys are keen on. Okay, so yeah, so as we start, we start talking about the rally, right? Let's start talking about how it's pushed up. Let me just do that. Okay, so I'll show you that. I'll zoom on a little. This is Bitcoin on the H4 time frame, and you can see that. I'll show it to you on the daily first, just because it's easier. right? It's been climbing pretty much, well, it's been climbing for a very long time, but since April, it's pushed up, it retraced a little bit. So that was the previous high at 123. It retraced back down to 107. It caught 125, 126, and now it's retraced back down almost to the 107 level again. Okay, so you can see that we even started where wait here January, right? We started the year just under there, right? Just under the 100,000 mark. It came right down to that 75,000 mark, and then since I like marking my charts a bit, right? So it started about that 95,000, 93,000 mark. It came down, found 76, 75,000, and then so far it's pushed to the upside. I lost my YouTube. Hang on. Okay. Let me know if all this still makes sense. Okay. To you guys. So it's pushed up, right? It's been forming up, and then after that we found it came up to that 126 level, and then since the 7th of October came right down to this 107, 108 level where it is right now. Okay, so when you think about that, right, when you look at that and you start thinking about that, the, there's several reasons. There's several reasons, and it's quite similar to what we talked about in gold. You remember what we talked about in gold? It was just last week, right? One of the first reasons why I think there was a lot of buying pressure on Bitcoin was because, firstly, the governments are in a bit of a mess, right? The governments are in a bit of a mess. Trump causing some cause of some confusion. I'm going to be watching my words now. Um, we got China and the US with the trade war. We got Russia and Ukraine with the conflict. We've got Israel and the Palestinians and the Gaza Strip with their conflict as well, right? So there will and now we have the government shutdown, right? And now we have the U.S. government shutdown has been on for 3 weeks now, right? There was news that they might, or they're trying, or they're expecting to end it by this week. Fingers crossed. All right, so government shutdown. In I think it was beginning of October. Now we're towards the end of October. Same old story: political gridlock, debt ceiling, where they're trying to manage how much they're going to extend their limit by, physical chaos, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Okay. And then every time, so when there's all that uncertainty, people get nervous. When people get nervous, what do? They start buying into safe haven assets, right? Physical assets, safe haven assets. There's no doubt that this was the main reason why we see gold climbing, why we see a lot of property prices climbing, why we see a lot of um, cryptocurrency prices climbing, right? A move towards physical assets, especially safe haven assets. So gold went up to, I think, no, now it's over, let's see, over 4,000. It's 4,335. Bitcoin is at just under one, well, was under 126, now 108. It's all pushed up. Right? It's not random. Bitcoin became more and more like digital gold. So it's a hedge against the government's dysfunction. It's a hedge against the fiscal mess. Then we start, when trust in this whole institution starts to go down, the trust in the scarce decentralized assets goes up, right? That's why we saw Bitcoin pushing up. Then after that, we also saw institutions buying into Bitcoin through the ETFs, buying the cryptocurrencies through the ETFs, right? Spot Bitcoin ETFs. So these were launched, I think, from memory, about in January 2024. So they're relatively new, right? They're relatively new, but they're new but changing a lot of things, right? Because now typical investors like pension funds, um, wealth managers, family offices, they can all buy Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies without dealing with wallets or exchanges or custody, um, or keeping it safe. All that kind of headaches, right? They can just buy the ETF, just like buying a stock. So for a very long time now, if you've been monitoring the flows, we've been seeing very steady flows, steady inflows, right? Where institutions are accumulating. So that kind of puts a base level, a very strong support level under Bitcoin, where it wasn't there in the last few cycles. So you see a good push. Previously in Bitcoin, you see a big push, you see a drop, and then a bit of consolidation. Now you pretty much see a push, lesser of a drop, a bit of a consolidation before pushing up. So it's got a good base and good foundation there because of the ETFs. So that's the kind of the second main thought, right? Where institutions are pumping money into it, and very similar to gold, they don't just when central banks are buying gold, 5-10% drop in price does not scare central banks for gold, does not scare institutions buying ETFs on Bitcoin that much compared to the retail trader, right? You see a retail investor, something drops 5 to 10%, they start panicking, they start panic selling. But for institutions, they be like, okay, this is part of fluctuation. 5%, happy to take it, or happy to sit through it because they have the liquidity, and they actually find it as a way to accumulate more. You drop, they buy in some more. So long-term allocations. Right. So yeah, now I think I read somewhere that they're looking at 1 to 3% of their portfolio is being invested into Bitcoin as a bit of a hedge. Right. So what we see, there's increased demand because of the uncertainty in the governments. There is a structural demand because of institutions. It's less about speculative trading. It's more about long-term allocations. So that's all. That's the two main things that's really kind of pushing the price, or sustainably pushing the price of Bitcoin to the upside. Then, and then when you think about it, there is the CME futures. Sorry, okay. And then when you think about it, the CME futures taking over Binance, right? Overtaking Binance. Right? There is a headline, I can't find it now, but I was reading it a couple of days ago, preparing for this, where there was CME Bitcoin, something like CME Bitcoin futures opens interest. I can't remember what's it called, right? But CME is where I'll find it. I'll find it and share with you guys later on. I should have made a note of that. But CME is where the big boys trade, the big institutions, the hedge funds, the super pro traders. It's where they trade. It's regulated. It's Wall Street, super legit, right? Binance is the biggest crypto exchange out there, as one of, if not the biggest crypto exchange out there, right? Most retail traders and crypto involved personnel or individuals would be on Binance. So for many, 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 many years, Binance had way more open interest than the CME, right? That told you that the retail was driving the market. Now that CME is leading that interest, it tells you that institutions, this is same thing what we spoke about earlier, that institutions are taking over the market. Huge shift, huge shift. less panicky, less emotional, right? Less speculative retail trading. It's become, an asset class of its own. If it's not already a long-term asset class, long-term institutional asset class of its own, right? And then just then when I said something about Bitcoin as a digital gold, right? Bitcoin and gold, there is a bit of a relationship there, right? There is a little bit of a relationship there because you see them kind of moving in tangent. It's not exactly 100% like what we see now. Bitcoin is retracing, but gold is still sitting across, but they do kind of move in a little bit of a similar pattern. Then you start thinking that gold has a market cap of I think $30 trillion, while Bitcoin I think is about 2.1 trillion dollars. Not saying that Bitcoin should get to 30 trillion tomorrow, right? Or Bitcoin should be worth 30 trillion tomorrow. But if the institutional investors are already making Bitcoin as the digital gold, right? If there's a real store of value, an inflation hedge, an alternative to I should have a $10 note, a $50, $100 note as fiat, then over time it's going to capture some of the gold's market share, right? Then you're going to see a better correlation between gold and Bitcoin. So even if gold gets to, no, it's 2.1 now, if it gets to 3 trillion, right? If Bitcoin gets to 3 trillion, the Bitcoin will be about, I think, I did some math, maybe about 150,000, right? And that's 10% of gold's market cap. And it's not that far away. And that's how people get that kind of numbers or projection numbers, right? Um, Gold was 30 trillion, Bitcoin is 2.1. If Bitcoin gets to 3 trillion, which is 10% of 30, then it should be about 150,000 per Bitcoin. It's now 108, right? Let's say if Bitcoin gets to 20% of gold, 6 trillion. None, not, I purposely made it an easy one. Um, it's got 3 trillion, 150,000, 6 trillion, that's 300,000. So that upside there on Bitcoin is and that's why everyone's so bullish about it. Institutions are looking at it, right? There is an underlying fundamental between the correlations and the buying demand that there is massive upside on Bitcoin. So whether you believe it or not, it's up to you. I never used to believe it. I do, not now, but I do a while back. Um, but this is what's driving the institutional money, right? And that's what drove it up to the 125,000 mark. Does that make sense so far? Do me a favor, let me know, put it into the chat if it makes sense or you think it's complete um, BS. Put it into the chat. Okay, yes, no, just something short, let me know. Okay? While you're doing that, we'll do a quick recap because we're about 8 minutes away to switching over to the members stream. Why do we hit 125,000 for Bitcoin? Government dysfunction, not dysfunction, confusion, right? That's making people move towards hard assets, physical assets. That's making people move towards safe haven assets. The ETF, right? Introduction of the ETF in January 2024 is driving in more institutional money. The CME taking over, making it super legit, especially for the institutional money. And then the relationship or the correlation with gold, right? The percentages gives you a bit of a way to kind of, it's before you start thinking about that, guessing where Bitcoin, the price targets of Bitcoin could get to, it's a bit of a, it feels like a bit of a guesswork. Oh, I'll get there based on your Fibonacci retracement or projection levels, it'll get there. But at least now you're looking at it as a correlation with gold, as a percentage of gold's market share. You start looking at 150,000, 300,000, that kind of numbers, that kind of projection target levels. Okay, thanks for that, Jimmy. Right. So if you start thinking of why, just quickly now, we've got a couple of minutes more. Why we start thinking of why did it drop from 126,000 down to now 108,000, right? So if you think about that, the biggest reason why it dropped is that Bitcoin ETFs had a 536 million dollar outflow on that one day, selling off. Bitcoin ETFs selling off massively on the 16th of October, of 536 million. Biggest single day outflow. Big reasons why, because if you look at it here, show you here. So right there, right, 16th of October is that one there. Started pushing down, but you see it started dropping already, right? And it's well within, at first, it was well within, you would say that it's well within the range, right? It's still ranging like what it did before, range, and then pop to the upside. It's ranging. We were even thinking that, oh, it could bounce from here to the upside, right? But on the 16th of October, we saw huge selling pressures on Bitcoin to the downside because of the ETFs sell off. Okay, two reasons: profit taking, or maybe three. Profit taking, right? It's just gone up from 90, from 60 over 90,000 up to 120. It's come back down a little bit. Time to take some profits to close out the books, taking profits, locking in profits. Two, it was October, so it could be kind of an end of, not end of the quarter, but a bit of a rebalancing before the end of the year. All right, portfolio rebalancing. I rebalance my portfolio, my non-FX portfolio every 3 months, 3 and 6 months. So it could be consideration is a rebalancing, again, profit taking, closing it, pushing it to the downside, all right, um, or taking off a little bit of risk. And then three, um, China, the China tariff, not tariff, but China response to the tariff, to increase tariffs, right? So maybe as much as Bitcoin is digital gold, it's still a little bit of a risk asset. It's a slightly safer risk asset. So you saw a bit of a shift out of Bitcoin into gold. We saw gold push up into gold pushing up, right? Other thoughts is that we saw a leverage, a bit of a liquidation, right? I know many traders have been trying to find tops, trying to sell the rally, right? A lot of people were going long. That was a straightforward thing to do. But then a lot of them was trying to sell the rallies as well. So it could have gone up, hit levels, and then cause a push back down. It could also have been people buying up, when they close off, huge selling pressures pushing Bitcoin down, right? And that's what we see it pushing down from 126 to 105, 104, 108 right now. And then the technical reason is that 126 as a big round number was a big strong resistance level that price didn't like, or market didn't like that price. Hit that point, hesitated, and then came right back in again. All right, and then we have the Fed Reserve going to be meeting soon about their interest rate decision. We're expecting with the government on a shutdown, with the government on a shutdown now, the Fed Reserve is not going to have any data to work with, and because they don't have any data to work with, they're possibly going to um, continue along their path, right? Continue along their path of cutting rates. So if they do continue cutting rates, then we could see that the Bitcoin could jump back up again. But right now, there is about 50-50. They could cut rates, continue cutting rates, or they just be like, oh, we don't have any data, we're not going to do anything. And that's why we're taking some risk off the table. Okay? So with all that, we talked about why it's pushed up. The Well, I forgot the reasons why now, but another couple of reasons: the safe haven, ETFs, Bitcoin as a digital gold, and one more thing I can't remember. Um, then we talk about why it pushed down, or why it has pushed down. Firstly, the sell-off on the 16th of October, profit taking at 125 and that resistance level, and then the uncertainty over the Fed Reserve with their interest rate decision. All that has caused that. Let me find it. Let me do that. That push up. Oh, that push up that way, and then that big push back down again. Okay. I hope that all makes sense for you. Okay. What I'll do now. Hey, Hungry Foodie, how you doing? In a minute time, we'll switch over to the members only live stream where we'll look at it in the H1 time frame, looking at possible levels that we're going to be talking about, like that, right? So talking about levels where it could get to. So if you are already a member, I think it will. I'm pretty sure we've done it a couple times last week already. So I'm pretty sure it'll just switch across to the live stream for you guys. If you're not a member, think about it. Click that join button and be a member. I hope you found the Bitcoin analysis useful. We'll continue the next part of that tomorrow. Do make sure you join at 2:30 p.m. GMT plus 8. Before you leave, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a feedback and comment as well. Let me know. And then we should be switching over. A lot of things are new, Hungry Foodie. How was your holiday?